Hey guys, welcome to Dwarvenkegger. I'm Rob.
I'm Tanner.
And today we're going to be talking about our first time with horror films.
Our first horror movie of all time. The very first horror movie we ever remember watching. It's so special. It's so special.
It's, okay, it's not as special as you would think.
Not really. Not really.
So my first horror film was a little ditty called Neon Maniacs. In fact, I believe that I have it right here.
Oh.
It's oh boy, what a film!
It's a winner. My first one, 1997, Tales from the Crypt, Bordello of Blood.
Of blood.
Of blood. We should mention that while we're going to be having this discussion, we are going to be enjoying Sierra Nevada Torpedo Extra IPA.
Extra IPA.
IPA.
It sounds like something you would have to be like.
Golly.
He's gonna hate this.
Full disclosure, I'm not a huge IPA fan. I'm trying to be. I'm trying to do the research and put in the work to become an IPA fan because there's so many damn IPAs out there.
IPA.
This is a 7.2 by volume. That is one good thing about IPAs is they typically have a really high alcohol content. I'm trying to
love that goes into it.
It is. I'm trying to get used to that bitterness of IPA. So, Bordello of Blood. The year, if you will, is 1997. I'm a young, chubby, white kid in Midwest America.
They used to be chubby. It's true.
It's true. I had a buddy coming over, and I said to my dad, "Hey, Dad." Sorry, the cat's trying to scale the wall right now. "Hey, Dad. Buddy's coming over. It'd be super cool if we went and rented a horror movie." Because, back in those days, we had these things called Blockbusters and Family Videos, and you could rent videotapes. So my dad
Actual
goes,
VHS.
VHS. I still have VHS tapes, but I mean,
Sometimes you got to.
you got to. They're fantastic, and they're really cool looking. The art on them was phenomenal. So anyway, I don't tell my dad what kind of horror movie I want to see. I'm just saying, "Hey, Dad, be cool, get us one." So he gets Tales from the Crypt, Bordello of Blood. Okay? Now, I did not know at the time, because I'd never seen it. I was 7 years old. My parents were somewhat strict. I wasn't really allowed to watch a lot of violent shows with nudity. I wasn't really allowed that, so I didn't know what to expect. So he sits down. We'd had dinner. We had pizza or whatever. And Dad says, "Listen, I got this horror movie. I've never seen it. It was 97. It had just come out on tape." And it's weird to say it's on tape. But he says, "Listen, guys, we can watch this, but when I tell you to close your eyes, you have to close your eyes." Wink, wink. Well, I feel like if he would have seen the movie, he would have known that getting this for two 7-year-old boys was not a good choice. Because there is tons of... it's called Bordello of Blood. Okay, there's Bordello. Whorehouse of blood. There's tons of nudity, over-the-top violence. I mean, it's insane. There's literally a scene in the movie where the song Ballroom Blitz is playing. They have two super soakers filled with holy water, and they are killing with their super soakers topless vampires who are blowing into flames. It's, man...
Good movie.
It wasn't that great of a movie. But to a 7-year-old boy...
Those tits were made.
That was the coolest thing I'd ever seen in my entire life. I thought, this is the pinnacle of movies. This is... Bordello of Blood is as good as it gets. It had Dennis Miller in it, Corey Feldman, some other very forgettable people.
Mostly forgettable people.
Very good stuff. Actually, could you look up the whole cast
Yeah,
list?
let me look at the cast right now.
Oh man, but to me, like I said, being a 7-year-old, I didn't know what horror movies were about. My parents were kind of strict. I didn't get to watch this stuff, so I'm just soaking this all in wide-eyed. I mean, it was crazy to me. I'd never seen anything.
So the cast. Sorry to cut you off.
No, not at all.
I meant to do it on purpose.
No.
So Angie Everhart was in it. Then you had Erica Eleniak, the same chick who was in the movie Under Siege with Steven Seagal, where she jumped out of the cake topless. Another good movie of my childhood.
Very funny.
Dennis Miller, Corey Feldman, Chris Sarandon. If you guys have ever seen the movie Fright Night, he was the lead vampire in that.
I think he was the preacher, actually.
Yes, he was.
There's a preacher, and I should give you a little backstory before he goes on. So this bordello of blood, of vampires, was created by, the queen of all vampires. So they bring her back from the dead, basically, to pick off the sinners, so to speak. So, that's how he's involved. He's like the crooked pastor.
Absolutely.
Anyway.
And then you had William Sadler, the guy that played the Grim Reaper in Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey. Yeah, exactly.
way better movie.
Be excellent to each other.
Way better movie.
Pretty much not a better movie. But he also was he was also one of the bad guys in Die Hard 2.
It was a pretty...
Another underrated movie.
Yeah, no, I love all the Die Hards, but I mean, to me, the movie was more than a vampire topless horror movie. It was more than that because it was special, you know?
It was his first.
It was my first. And my dad pulled a really cool dad move by allowing us to watch something that we totally shouldn't have been watching. But it kind of shaped what I look for in horror movies today. I kind of like some humor, and I like it to be over the top. It's horror movies. We all know that vampires aren't real. Hope not.
Jesus Christ.
We all know that horror monsters aren't real.
Oh,
so
the
I wanted
horror monsters.
The horror monsters.
Not horror. Horror monsters. Bordello of blood.
But, I mean, you want it to be over the top. I want it to be a little silly. I want it to be a 10 out of 10 on the craziness scale. And that's what, first of all, Tales from the Crypt, which was a fantastic comic series and a fantastic show on HBO, on Fox. Fantastic. Please look it up. Because that's what they were. They were these funny little stories, these horror stories that kind of had like a catch at the end.
Right.
They were...
It was like a mini version of like an M. Night Shyamalan film.
It was with a lot of humor, over the top violence to the point where
substantially less money.
Yeah. I mean, you never really got there. Usually was some nudity in it. I mean, it was on HBO.
There was always nudity.
It was back in HBO's heyday too. When I was a kid, when we were kids, HBO was everything.
Yeah, the HBO After Dark series.
Oh my
stuff
gosh.
like that.
It was HBO used to be.
What was that comedy show that used to be on there with where like it would be like a stand-up comedy thing, or it was like HBO.
Was it After Dark?
Yeah, I think it was just called HBO After Dark, but it was.
Oh man,
cutting
edge. It made you want to buy premium cable because you knew you were getting all the good movies on HBO, all the good shows. And they were I think one of the first places to kind of have Tales from the Crypt. Fantastic.
That kind of an atmosphere with like the
anything goes,
the adult horror kind of
anything goes.
Yeah, it was awesome.
And it reflected the comics too, because I mean, if you've never read horror comics, I mean, you have all these stereotypical women who look like pinup. You know, you've got this monster, you've got this over buff masculine guy. I mean, everything is very over the top. And Tales from the Crypt did a really good job in capturing that vibe and that atmosphere from those comics and bringing it to the series. But I think I want to hit pause right there just to talk about this beer. I'm not, full disclosure, not a huge IPA fan. This is an extra IPA, but it's not bad.
It's not.
It's really not. The bitterness doesn't knock you out of your seat.
Well, it's not as bitter as most IPAs. Usually with a traditional IPA, you're a little bit more bitter. With an extra IPA, you get a little bit more of an alcohol content and a little bit more of a floral kind of a note.
Very floral
to hit you in the back of the throat and your nose. It's actually really good.
Yeah,
I enjoy it a lot. Of course, I am an IPA fan. I'm a hophead. So
a hophead,
yeah,
like a parrot head.
Kind of,
like
only without shitty music.
Oh man, yeah, not Jimmy.
Wasting away again in Margaritaville.
Yeah, they have good restaurants though. Cheeseburgers from Paradise.
Oh god,
they used to have one of those in Terre Haute, Indiana.
Some of the best mahi I've ever had.
Was that a cheeseburger in Paradise? Okay, yeah.
But yeah, no, it's a cheeseburger in Paradise.
Yeah. What was your first horror movie?
My first horror film was Neon Maniacs, 1980 something.
Gross.
Is that an 86?
86.
Yeah, 86. So, the premise of the film, if he doesn't knock over his beer, was these creatures, these monsters that lived under the Golden Gate Bridge would come out at night and terrorize young kids.
For no reason.
I mean, literally, okay, so if we could talk about a movie with plot holes.
The movie is a plot hole.
The movie itself is a plot. Now, I will say this. I still, to this day, absolutely adore this film. It is, so back in the day, where I grew up, we had a place called D Rose Video. And it had...
Look it up.
No, don't, because it doesn't exist.
It's not anymore.
Anymore, I guess. Yeah. But, you know, like, jumping into the horror movie kind of a scene, you know, I walk in there with my dad and I say, you know what, Dad, I think this, I'm 10 or 11 years old when I do this. I say, Dad, I think I'm old enough for horror films.
I'm a man now.
Dad says, okay. That wasn't paraphrasing, that was his exact, okay. So I go up and down this aisle, probably 50 times, looking for the perfect horror movie.
The one.
The one.
The
Neo of horror films.
For his first time.
And to pop my horror cherry, I find the movie Neon Maniacs.
Neon Maniacs has your V card.
Neon Maniacs has my V card.
Oh, Bordello Blood has mine.
Which makes more sense.
It does.
So, I get the movie, I get home, I have a VHS player and a TV in my room, black and white TV, mind you, because I'm old as dirt. And I put it in, and the disclaimer comes on, telling me that it's a rated R film. This is before they put a lot of previews in front of horror films.
Yeah.
You know, like before the late age of VHS and early age of DVD.
You just kind of got a little bit of lead up.
Yeah, you got movie. Generally, like when I remember, I got the VHS, I put it in. The trailer for the movie played before the movie. The trailer that showed every single frickin' monster in the movie.
Kind of like horror movie trailers now. You know, if a horror movie is gonna be crappy nowadays, if they show you all the good parts in the trailer prior to the movie,
then you know that you've already wasted your money. Anyway, to start off, the movie shows, I believe, a bunch of kids.
Teenagers, your classic
high school students.
Classic setup.
High school students who are drinking
Oh,
and being promiscuous.
Quick pause. Now, before the filming of this video, I had never seen Neon Maniacs. I got him a copy of it as a gift for like one of his birthdays, but I had never actually seen the film. So in preparation for this video, you know, prior to filming, I watched the movie for the first time, and I actually have a little quiz for you.
Guess who's gonna fail?
There is only one kind of beer that is drank in Neon Maniacs. What is it?
So can I get a multiple choice on this?
I'll give you two guesses because
I would prefer multiple choice.
Oh, multiple choice.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
A, B, C, D.
Oh wow, 4 choices. Okay.
A, B, C.
A little back, if you've not seen the movie, some of the opening scenes, you know, you got this rockin' van full of teenagers.
Kind of like a van that you would like to get.
I'd love a boogie van. It's a boogie van. That's exactly what it is. It's awesome. This thing is decked out, and you've got the whole cast. You've got the jock with his girlfriend,
The stoner, the outcast,
I think
the fucking fireworks throwing guy, the outcast.
Yeah, the outcast, and then you got the virgin, which is the most important part of any of these old horror movies. If you've seen Scream, you know there's a formula, and you got to have the virgin. It's key. Anyway, they stop at
the woods.
Yeah, exactly. We'll get there. But they stop at a liquor store because it's the mid-'80s and teenagers who are in high school can just go to liquor stores freely and buy alcohol. There's no limit. But they buy this beer, and I'll give you multiple choice. Bud Light, Miller Lite, Oh man, I'm trying to keep it in the same wheelhouse as these other. So it's either Bud Light, Miller Lite. Help me out. I'm thinking of an old beer. I'm going to give you 3. Bud Light, Miller Lite, or Heineken. It's one of those 3. Which one is it?
Heineken's not an old beer, but I'm going to say Heineken because it took you forever.
It is Heineken, and dang it, it's because I struggled on it.
That's
Heineken.
why I do well at tests.
Not all of your test givers are buzzed, hopefully. They might have been, I don't know. But anyway, Heineken's the only beer that's actually drank in Neon Maniacs. And it's out of the old style bottle. It's pretty cool.
Little shorty bottles.
Yeah, it's a pudgy little bottle. But it's pretty cool.
Awesome.
But how did Neon Maniacs, I don't know.
How did they afford Heineken?
How did they afford Heineken? But how did that movie shape how you watch horror movies today?
So, with Neon Maniacs, it had everything. It had the damsel in distress. It had the memorable horror, menacing characters. This is several characters, actually. I think there's 6 or 8.
Yeah, and there's not a lot of explanation in the movie.
No, explain enough. There's no background on these characters. And not only that, but there's no background on what in the fuck they're doing in the first place.
You're just
chasing people down.
You're just thrown into this. There's no explanation. You're along for the ride.
It's got that. It's got the hints of how they can be defeated throughout the whole film. There's this weird Indian character. There's a hangman. There's
think the village people.
Creature.
It's like
the horror films.
It is literally the cast of the village people with some horror movie makeup. That's exactly what it is. There's a samurai. There's a cop. There's a biker. There's isn't there a Nazi?
Yeah,
there's a Nazi
who rides a motorcycle. No, the biker rides the motorcycle.
Yeah, there's a biker.
Common sense would tell us that, but anyway.
When I watched it, first of all, I was like, "Wow, this is horrible." But I tried to put it in perspective of 7-year-old Tanner. I tried to put myself in the spot of what if I would have watched Neon Maniacs instead of Tales from the Crypt Bordello of Blood, and it had me enjoying the film more. Because I'm just absorbing it. It doesn't matter that there's not this rich backstory with the creatures. It doesn't matter that it's all of these actors that are way too old to be playing teenagers. None of that mattered. You're just enjoying it. It was just a cheesy slasher film from the 80s.
It is the epitome of 80s slasher films.
It's fun.
So it's
at parts.
I guess watching it. See, I still to this day love this movie. It's my first horror film.
It's his first time.
It's my first time. It still holds a special place in my heart because I actually, when D-Rose Video was going out of business, I bought the VHS and I watched it so many times.
Such a cool story.
That I ruined it. I ruined the tape, and it was the saddest day of my life until this son of a bitch bought me the fucking DVD on my birthday. Which it's nice to have good friends like that.
Buckle up, kids, because back in the day, we're gonna do a history lesson. Back in the day, we had VHS tapes. Okay, most of you probably know what those are. But
Betamax?
Betamax? What? But you could ruin these things if you watched them too frequently because you had to rewind them after you were done. Please be kind, rewind. You had to rewind these videos, and every time you did that, you would slowly wear down the film, slowly wear down the parts of the tape. And so you could literally, this is embarrassing, but the first movie I ever watched into oblivion?
Debbie Does Dallas.
No, I wish. The Goofy movie.
Gorsh!
Exactly. I watched that thing into dust. That thing fell apart. My dad was like, "Son, I'm sorry. There ain't nothing we can do to save this thing."
So what happens is the film eventually, because believe it or not, back in the day, it would sit on reels and it would spin very quickly so that you could watch the film. It eventually would get hot, which in turn would stretch the film, which in turn will create blank spots in the film, or at that time it was more like lines in the film and stuff.
You could start to tell when you were watching a tape if it was getting ready to meet
take
its
a
maker.
big giant stinky poop.
Yeah, and then break on you. And then there was even tape you could buy to try to like repair.
No, for real
tape.
though.
Like, this is a big deal. I remember going to Target back in the day, and there was a section where you bought videotapes that was like videotape repair.
Head cleaners for the actual
for
the actual reels.
Yes.
Because it created residue. If you watched movies so often, the residue would build up on the actual reels, and these would, or technically it wasn't the reels themselves. There was a thing that touched the screen, touched the film, and when the film drug across it, it created a residue.
I'm sorry.
So
you've already lost anybody who's like, well, I clicked on this video for a VHS history lesson.
But they would essentially clean that, and you would be able to keep your.
It's because we love these films so much. It's because they meant so much to us. And like I said, watching Tales from the Crypt, Bordello of Blood shaped how I watch horror movies. It fired up this love for horror movies for me, because I love this over the top, this scary nudity. I loved all of it. I mean, it was so fantastic, and it shaped how I watch horror movies today. Quick pause. I like that IPA. That's a good IPA. I mean, it is.
Oh, it's a fantastic. I mean, it's one of the best extra IPAs I think I've ever had. But Sierra Nevada, from like the Torpedo IPA, the Sierra Nevada really does make a good IPA.
Check it out. It's really good.
Brah!
Get
it, brah!
Check it out, because it's a really good beer, and I'm not an IPA fan. So if it's appealing to me, what it says is it's an overall good beer. You know, I can appreciate the beer even though I'm not an IPA fan.
It really is good. I mean,
I'd give it a 3.5.
I'd give it a 3.5 as well.
It's a very good beer.
I think we've actually agreed on something for the first time in this show.
I think we've agreed on other things, haven't we?
Not on actual rankings.
Yeah, I have to look back, especially with something with an IPA. That's pretty monumental. Mark this one down. But anyway, this has been a quick little story time about our first horror movies.
Not to spoil anything, but before we go, the way to kill the monsters in Neon Maniacs, everyone. Water. Plain old water.
Tap water. That's it.
Water.
At least in Bordello of Blood, it was holy water and a super soak. Dennis Miller's soaking the horrors down. And they're bursting into flame. It's just tap water.
Tap water.
Tap water.
Tap water, rainwater, pool water.
Any water. So they live under the bridge,
because if they didn't live under the bridge, they would get rained on. In one of the rainiest fucking places on the planet.
Such a weird, bad movie.
So I'm gonna have to go into detail on this.
Please.
The things leading up to where you find out that water is what gets them is she's in the shower and they get into her house. As soon as she turns the shower on and gets in, they're gone. She's in the pool and she's hanging out and she jumps in and he leaves. He's hanging out watching her, the little ape-man guy.
There's an ape-man, there's a Neanderthal looking guy.
There is a Neanderthal looking guy. Anyway, you hear thunder and he's like, I better piece the fuck out, I got to go. He leaves, right? And then the piece de resistance, one guy dies from water, and they know.
They know that's how you kill him. That's how you kill him.
The 1980s plastic squirt guns.
Yeah.
Filled with regular water.
Ironically, and this just clicked, Bordello of Blood, the triumphant scene with Ballroom Blitz where they're soaking down the vampire prostitutes and they're bursting into flames. Cheesy 1980s squirt guns. That's the connection, everyone.
He went like this, in case you didn't see that.
It's like a Chinese speaker trap. Until next time, guys. Cheers.
Cheers.
There's nothing in there.